Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's episode of the Gym Owners Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Stoner. There's John Fairbanks. How you doing, John?
I'm doing fabulous, Tyler.
It's one of these cloudy mornings. It's tough I got to come in not low energy here. There's nothing worse than a podcast that opens up and you can tell the guys have just been having a slow, subdued conversation beforehand, and it moves so slow and really boring. So we're going to keep it high energy for you guys today. So today we're going to talk about, before we get in, let's just get it right into it. So John and I, we haven't podcasted in a couple of weeks. So if you're listening, you're still digging into the backlog, I think was what we had this week. So anyway, this week we're going to talk about kind of a little bit of a process we go through when we develop, whether it's a new standalone program, a new specialty program, a new camp challenge, whatever this is. We call all these things programs, I guess, right? Product program in regards to your gym. It's all over the place. But we're going to go through the process that we use from almost the ideation of a program, the concept, to how we implement it, how we sell it, how we tune it up. And we're going to do this in the context of a program that we've actually built, designed, and launched in the last year within gyms and personal trainers, so that you'll have a pretty good idea actually of how this works within the context of the types of shit that you guys are doing. So
now, I don't want you to and I don't want it to get confused, because we've talked about and we've laid out like the nutrition program. We've laid these things out, but I don't think we've ever like pulled back the curtain for you guys to be able to start to feel like, how do you take, I wonder if, or this would be cool, or like you all have things that you've thought about. Like we've all had idea, like we've taken you guys way back, right? We played with the idea of like, if you were going to brainstorm, if Tyler and you and I are going to start a gym, what would we want this gym to look like? But there needs to be a beginning where it's like, there's nothing that's off the table. And I think that's an important moment that I don't know if we've spent enough time on. That's what I wanted to really be able to dig into. Like you said, the ideation, like starting from the very beginning, which is nothing is off the table, no matter what you're about to brainstorm for, that no idea is a bad idea, right? You allow enough breathing room for everything. And this oftentimes it's awesome if you have more than one person. So if it's like you have a business partner, it's even better. This is typically where I'll drag you, Tyler, like onto a call. Like, Tyler, I woke up in a sweat at like midnight.
I got notes.
I have notes. Here's my things. Pull up all the whiteboards, and I'm like, all right, let's throw everything on here. And if you're not doing that, as you come up with any idea, any service, event, concept, rethinking about a gym, if you are a personal trainer that's wanting to be able to get to a gym or whatever it is, we get too quickly of like, so what we need is like lat pull down machines. Yeah. It's like, God, that's so fucking boring. Like we seem obsessed with all the really boring shit, and we kind of gloss over the stuff that actually makes things awesome.
I agree. And so let's run through here, John, specifically what we're talking about, that the program we're going to run through here for this episode is the Dudes Rock training block program and the different iterations of it that we were now at this one. So this is a program that, in concept, John, where did this start out of? This started from just like really on its own. I'm training guys primarily because I'm a big, huge guy. That's really where this starts. And the need began to exist for a program that does not require one-on-one personal training. It needed to be an online program, but it needed to not just be a list of workouts or a very specific list of macronutrient requirements for somebody to hit. It had to be more than that, because I've coached men, and I know there's more things that they need to learn. There's better experiences they need to have. And I think that there's things that they need to do to make their training fun. So in general, though, this whole thing popped out of the need for something to make sure that I can't coach people one-on-one all the time. I don't have that much time to be in the gym. That's the need led this thing to start to be thought up, because it's like, I have plenty of people that want my help. I simply cannot get to them all. And a lot of people can't afford one-on-one personal training.
And can we actually zoom back even further? What this really came out of was that Tyler needed money.
Oh, yes, of course.
This is many years ago, right? Like this is like, right. Like this is the very beginning though. Like Tyler needed money. And the last thing, if I'm like projecting of what I figured you were thinking back in 2018, 2019, probably was when this was getting built, the original version of this. was that we were in the business of templates.
Training templates.
We helped, right? It was programming templates for small people to stay small and do small things. And it was kind of one of those things where it was the easiest thing for us to scale up because you were out of the country and you had people that were all over the world that needed to be able to be trained. And just like you said, I couldn't one-on-one personal train these people. So I needed to have an online template, online programming opportunity for people to buy from me, but I don't want it to be lame and stupid.
Yes. And in reality, anyone out there, like there's plenty of like fitness coaching models out there that are going to start to tell you that your coaches, your gym, and all this stuff needs to start to pivot into online coaching, right? You need to get into remote coaching. You get, and one, I believe that is absolutely not true. That is a choice that you can make, right? Absolutely. If you do not want to have to build that infrastructure or wade into that very, very crowded pool, I think that it's absolutely okay that you not do that. So there's plenty of people kind of shoving gyms and fitness centers, and if you get a decent Instagram following, now I guess you just have to start selling training programs,
right?
You know, that just becomes the thing that people do. Now the issue is that stuff is very, very, very oversaturated at this point because everyone who is more famous than you, who has more followers than you, is already blasting all this stuff out there. So if you, friendly neighborhood gym, wants to launch a simple training program, well, you're going to get fucking blasted by, you're going to get absolutely washed out because of all of the other people that are already doing the same thing, that already have the eyes and ears and social media attention from your audience, even your local audience. If they're following just fit people, it's very likely there's just some regular fitness legging spandex bimbo account out there that is probably the most likely person for somebody in your area to hire, and this person might be this account may be nowhere near you. So I think we have to understand that when we're getting into this space, it's already saturated. So the thing you're doing might as well be very specifically kind of based on you and the things that you do differently. And by the way, if you don't do this any differently, and all you are is selling a spreadsheet, or all you are is sending out the same list of workouts, like this does kind of suck, right? It's kind of not going to be any better than anything else that's out there, and that's okay, right? Because it does have some certain value, but don't expect this thing to rise to the top or perform extremely well, because there's just nothing in it that separates it from anything else. Is it by the way, there's no amount of hypertrophy coaching that I'm going to do online like that's better for the money than like the RP hypertrophy app or Juggernaut for strength training.
Right.
Like all of that stuff is infinitely better and more thorough and much more scientific and constantly adapting to your, like, if I need to compete on these in regards to the science on these online training programs, it's a fucking waste. And by the way, I recommend to people when they finish my programs to go to one of those two. That's where I send them.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, if you want to keep going, run this program again. You don't got to pay me an extra. You know all the stuff. You can run it for another cycle. But then if you're still going to the gym, you need to try something new. Go to one of these other things because they are fucking good. But my role is not for somebody who's been fitnessing and is already fit for 4 or 5 years, just looking to spice things up. My role is usually to help people that are on the slide, whether they're sliding away from fitness or whether they never got in. Like that's what I found. That's why this program, the second evolution of it, ended up coming out of like the audience that I actually work with directly, as opposed to the online audience we had before, which is basically small people who like strength training, CrossFit people who like strength training. And I had to be like, hey, then stop training like a CrossFitter and fucking it's time to do some big boy shit. And that became the tone. That became, the exercises were actually, it was pretty basic. There was just a couple of the training principles that I do differently that I just made a very big piece of the pie. One of those meaning, and I'll just, because we'll go into detail. I don't want to just stay in concept for this. Is the way I do accessories, especially if I'm looking for hypertrophy, is just failure in the most intense way, as frequently as possible on your accessories specifically. Not on compound lifts. I don't want anyone to die under a bar, but so there's timed sets. There's these just real structures where we put this exercise on a podium and it is time to kill your whatever muscle it is, whether it's pec exercise, biceps. That's a format that's particularly it's not unique. I didn't invent it or anything like that, but it really is just like you're going to live in the zone of failure and you go well beyond it. And it's a old school bodybuilding concept that I just felt was missing from the traditional box checking. I moved the weights from A to Z shit that I saw at a CrossFitters. I'm like, no. Stop pacing. Stop reducing the workload. Stop trying to, if you can do the exercise for 17 straight minutes, then you're not actually working that hard or that close to real failure. You're just essentially doing whatever walking is,
And how much of that programming, all that specificity, how much did you advertise all of those specifics?
Literally zero, none. And I think that's the most important thing.
And we fucking crushed the first iteration of selling this thing.
40 grand, probably something total got sold on that thing in the first couple months. And so I think,
well, I think this is the wrapping paper, right? That's missing. That I think even if you are somebody that's listening to this, be like, but I don't do anything special or I don't do anything different. It actually kind of is the same, but because of the community and the relationships that I've built with people, that's why they trust me. It's like, okay, but that all really fucking sucks. Like I get these, that's super, super important.
Yeah.
Right. I get it. Like fundamentally, foundationally, we all have to understand, like, go fucking listen to some previous episodes, like clients first, community we're all about that. But if you're trying to make something that's like awesome or interesting to be able to move the needle for anyone, even like, cause for me, I was always actively lifting. I wasn't skidding out or not participating. But as soon as you came up with the meathead muscle big rig program, whatever it was, get big juicy tits by the time you're done with this program, I'm like, I'm in. I want to do that because that sounds fucking awesome.
Yeah. And I think that's the question really is, what service are you offering when you're giving this out? And that is real, because the question, is there a service in this at all? And if we are simply selling a PDF and maybe an email that goes out in the beginning, if that's all the program is, then that is not really a service. You are really selling a list of exercises and a single plan. So whatever tone you put in and vibe you write into there, that's fine, but it still is going to just feel like just a fucking email. They got an email. So whatever they pay for, it's going to inherently be low value, and it's going to kind of be uninteresting. So is there accountability in this? Is there contact back and forth with you? Is this again, there can be varying degrees of this. I've sold training PDFs before. I've also sold versions of the Meathead Muscle where we were doing weekly calls. We were running through as a whole group.
That's right.
Week 1, week 2, right? I've also done it after the fact where people can just one-on-one message me with any questions back and forth. But I'm not hopping on any one-on-one calls, for a training program. And now, as in the current iteration of the program that I'm doing, which is not really anything like this other one, it's really specifically more for weight loss and getting people started. We added the nutrition component.
Yeah.
Because one of the things we do is, as you go through a program, whether it's successful financially or not, you go, what does this really need though? And now, where I'm at now, I don't have a ton of guys who are just beating down the door trying to get huge, trying to get jacked. Midwestern guys my age, at least my following, they got some pounds to lose, and the guys that are, I'm not over here putting like max lifts on the internet anymore. So it's not like anybody's going, oh, I want to be able to deadlift like Tyler. None of that stuff is a part of what I'm interested in fitness wise. I really am most interested in getting somebody the same gift of fitness that I got in your mid 30s, late 30s. You finally decide you want to, get going, and you just kind of start to make a few of the right moves, and it's rewarding and it works, and that ball continues to roll. So I wanted to make sure that process is quicker, easier, and makes more sense, and is not so confusing, because not everybody's going to be able to do all of that stuff and figure all of that stuff out on their own, and maybe not have all the time that they have in their day job to be listening to fitness and nutrition podcasts and learning things about food and being able to obsess over it all day. I can't expect my clients to like buy in at that level, especially early on. So what did they need to experience? And that's part of this, the evolution of this program, is that they need first off food, because there's no amount of training that I'm going to do. Like, this is the big thing. If these guys are going to lose weight. So everything we described a few episodes back about that's the 2 episodes back to back of a nutrition program launching and design. So you go into details of what that program is specifically. We have it a few episodes back. But I knew that needed to be added. And so that became a thing where I was like, okay, well, this now I believe though makes this really valuable already, like not like significantly more valuable than a list of exercises to do, even if it's 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 10 weeks, a million weeks, whether there's high quality demo videos or high quality PDFs, whatever the actual thing that they're getting in their inbox matters a lot less than, well, what really can help them become more successful. So if I'm going to pair fitness with nutrition, now I've filled in the biggest gap, in my opinion, in all of fitness, is that we think that exercising is the key, and I believe absolutely it is not the only. It is of secondary importance to nutrition and caloric balance.
And what's important is that as you are thinking about what you just said, Tyler, is this is part of that brainstorming phase where it's and we're now a couple iterations past. So we've ran a thing. It's now you're settling of like, what do I actually want this to be? Once you have this, and this may just be me, and then so, but I want to make sure that anyone that's semi-similar is this. So once I have a concept, my brain works where I put it like at the top of the whiteboard, right? As the top of my paper. And it's like, this is what I want. So you kind of just said, this is the purpose statement, right? This is the vision for what I'm about to create. This is what I want to have happen. And then for me, it's all about straight lines. I want to be able to draw straight lines to anything that's now going to be included. Like you said, Tyler, whether it is PDFs, it's emails, whether it is calls, whether it's accountability, they have access to me, whether the workouts are going to be hyperlinked to exercise movements, whether I create those videos or grab those videos on YouTube. This is when it is diarrhea of the brain, right? Of just boom, everything goes out onto that paper, everything goes onto that whiteboard. And as long as you can draw a straight line back to your North Star, to what the vision is of what we're even thinking about right now, it's how can I help these people be successful in alignment with what the overall vision is? Because if you can always draw a straight line, one thing leads to the next, this to that, and then back to that North Star, you're never wrong. Any idea that you're thinking of, because it can't be, because this is where things get wonky. You cannot say that you want people to lose weight, actively go to the gym, and do all these great things, and then have fucking pizza Fridays.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't align, at least not with this vision, not with this idea. So so it's like, well, yeah. And then we're all going to like have high octane beer and pizza every Friday and it'll be great. It's like, yes, you are promoting community there, but you're not, that's not a straight line to anything that you've just created. That's not it.
Yeah. And I think part of it too is so we've covered what the people are going to get, right? At that point, I've established, right, that I'm what I'm going to tell them, right? The generally the doing that they're going to do is the working out and the eating, right? That's it. Here's what you're going to eat. Here's what you're going to do in the gym. Again, that on its own, not terribly valuable. But where we started to add layers and layers to this, and this becomes actually a big selling point. Every time I talk to somebody about why they bought, they say this is, I want you to check in with me every morning. You're going to weigh in every day and you're going to check in with me every morning. We talked about why a couple episodes back. I think it's important, but that essentially is the only thing I'm doing for accountability for them. I'm there for them in that format and on that app to answer questions as they go, of course. But really, the only thing they're accountable to me to, weigh in, let me know what you had for breakfast or what you're going to have if it's a lighter fasting day and things like this. And so, but that's it. Like that really is it. But that check-in sounds annoying. Kind of does a little bit. Like if you're just a person who I just want to be told, great, then that's not going to be super valuable to do. If I'm being honest, the people that have chosen to not do those check-ins, I've fucking heard nothing from, which means they're not getting any results. It's just your guarantee. Guys that fall off, I follow up a couple times, and then that's fine. That's fine. You know, you're gonna not do it. I'm not up my guarantee. I know you're not doing shit, so it doesn't matter to me. Right. But in reality, that accountability is the thing that concept is what moved the needle on most of the sales for my most successful people. My most successful people is regards to results at the end of the program. Tell me when they get in, you know, I really need the accountability. They recognize that that was a problem. The issue is when guys tend to fail, it's when they don't recognize that a lack of accountability means they're going to be left to their own devices and they don't understand yet that they can't be fucking trusted, right? Versus the guys that are a bit further along in their weight gaining, maybe they've tried and failed to lose weight. These guys know yo, I'm the fucking problem. My decisions making is the problem. If I'm only accountable to myself, it doesn't get me shit. So they go, I need somebody to go, hey, what the fuck? And they know simply by checking in every day that I just know if that weight goes up, they're not following the program, not day to day, but in a week, if it goes up, you're not eating what I'm telling you, because I run this thing pretty tight. Like, you should be able to drop some weight quick, especially if you're a big boy. So that being said, I think that's one of the most interesting developments as this program has went, is adding that accountability to it now gives them a higher chance of success. Also is an attractor in regards to sales, because you're going to notice every one of these things that we start to say as we add another layer. Not only does it should it make the clients more successful, it should make the program easier for me to fulfill. It should make it more thorough, more effective, and give a wider amount of people a high chance of success. But each one of those pieces should also kind of make it easier to sell, because it fills in a very specific gap. People that say they don't want nutrition, I'm not fucking interested in working with you if you're trying to lose weight, dude. No thanks. So if me adding nutrition blocks you off, then I've saved myself a bunch of fucking bullshit by dealing with somebody like that.
Now, did you always have, as you, in the early iteration, once you decided that you wanted to go harder at the nutrition side of it, within that Dudes Rock training block, you wanted to have that, was accountability always part of that? Or did you just, as you went through a couple different versions of it, you started to identify like, oh, this is a gap that's missing, and it got added after the fact?
I knew right away with, so Dudes Rock is kind of the second iteration, right? It is an evolution of an original program. That's, while the training is very different, my understanding of how to deliver a program is still based on, that original one.
Right.
And so this is still its own new program. Now, I started with accountability immediately with this, and it is because of literally what I know from having lost weight myself and having coached people generally before. This program did come from, talk about, you're going to start any program, you're going to work inside out. You're going to do it. You're going to have other people do it. You'll have maybe, if you're doing this in a gym, you're going to sell it internally. Maybe you're just going to have a beta testing group that you offer a discount to go internally, then wider internal sales. So I kind of built this on just the formula that I needed for my guys to be successful. And a man who's not accountable to anything is not accountable to his own success or failure. And that just means there's a fucking high likelihood they're just gonna, it's not that they're guaranteed to fail, but it's just easier to stay in the same groove that you've always been moving in then. If you don't have a constant check-in to, like, if you wake up every morning, this is like the accountability is the same. If you wake up every morning and are grateful and thankful and literally think through all the great things you're thankful for in your life and all of that stuff, you tend to be in a better mood and you tend to be more appreciative and grateful in your life. It just tends, if you do that every morning, you're kind of focused on the right things. And if I don't force a man who's trying to lose weight to face the fact that he's trying to lose weight at least once a fucking day,
right?
Guys that end up putting on a ton of weight just end up being the types of guys who ignore the fact that they should be losing weight. And they ignore that for weeks, months, and years on end. So I knew in the psychology of someone being successful that did have to be a part of this program. Now, however, I don't particularly like lots of that correspondence. So I wanted it to be simple, because I feel like if I have to hold your hand, you're fucked. If I really got to be like, okay, princess, time to get to work, like, this is not going to work either. So I'm still pretty firm in my stuff. It's like, just do the thing. Most of the stuff that I tell them is just do the thing. You'll be fucking fine. Just do the thing. All the questions and whatever most of the time come up is, well, can I keep doing the thing that I'm always doing that's got me fat? And will that make, that's usually what most of the unreasonable concerns that people have. And it's like, no, you're just going to do this fucking thing for 5 weeks, please. I don't know what to tell you. You paid to do something different. I'm here then to make sure you don't do the same shit. And that's kind of it. I'm just a voice of reason. And I tend to be a pretty direct one in this format.
And the voice itself is written with a very specific type of person in mind, right? Yep. Overweight, 30s to 50s, Midwest man.
Yeah.
Right. So then, like, but now how you've written that. So now even the language and whatever the deliverables are, it's very hyper specific to that, which only makes it the best way to, so it's like, this is for dudes only. Like, it's the whole thing really is built. You know what I mean?
I've got segments in there about where, like, because I do, there's things in a person's weight loss journey that need to be addressed, that need to be learned. And a lot of it is like, Hey, I know it's totally okay to have snacks throughout the day. It totally is. But I got to break you of that somehow, one way or another. And part of it is just giving yourself to a program for a little bit. So I'm going to say, no fucking snacks. You're going to eat your meals. That is what we're going to do this week. And then in the context of the, just the weekly outlines that I write out, they still have many, many, many tips. Just those outlines that probably exist of a pretty good nutritional concept learning, not even the specifics of what to eat, but each little bullet list that goes out with each new week, I think has a lot of really important lessons to be learned. And I continue to add to those as I coach people, which is like, right. Hey, cheat meal, remember now, pay attention to how your cheat meal makes you feel. Don't just eat it and go, oh, I was pigged out, ha, 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 and kind of laugh it off the next day. Next day, you feel like shit. Next day, your fucking poop is insane. You know what I mean? Like, so a lot of that stuff is on there. Same thing with, guys, if you really think you need a sweet treat, said pop, like sugary sweet treats and candy, that stuff's for chicks and kids. You know what I mean? That's in the tone. That's literally written in there because I'm like, you're a man. Like, you're a goddamn man, and you walk into the store like, oh, shucks, it's 1 p.m. I should get myself some sweet little confection. That's fucking super lame, dude. And I don't respect you if that's how your brain works. That sucks. And so I put that in there pretty directly because it connects to somebody's like, at least a guy who's not taking that personally goes, that's probably fucking right. Because who complains, I'm hungry, I want to, that's some kid shit. That's absolutely childish. And so I just put that out right away. I keep everything pretty light, but that's the tone that I run with, and that works. But now let's get into that, John, because we've had great success with the program as far as like the outcomes for the clients. We've had really good results selling it. We've also now branched that out into just nutrition only, right? And that's something we did in the past, right? Because this is paired together. But I also found that there's a big chunk of men out there that they are too busy. And I don't care what anyone says out there. Like if you're never too busy to get to the gym. Yeah, I don't know, man. I know some guys that are too fucking busy, and that for sure the gym is not the lowest hanging fruit on their fucking health right now. It's right. It's not. So I hate when fitness professionals try to go, you need to make time. It's a bunch of people who, when fitness professionals make that argument, it's a bunch of people who literally professionally live in the gym and don't do almost anything outside of the gym, telling people that outside of their job, they should make time to go to the gym. And while I understand that is a necessary thing for a lot of people, most fitness professionals have no fucking clue how hard that is or what really that takes. Or we're already so reinforced in that behavior that we don't actually know what that struggle is to go there. And you're going to go there for months and months and months and maybe not get rewarded, maybe not understand, maybe not a single fucking person tells you you're doing good. Not a single person tells you they noticed the 6 pounds you've lost in the last 2 months. That's not a lot, but it'll be a big year. Keep this pace. You know what I mean? Like people don't always get the reinforcement or have the ease of access that fitness professionals do. And I think we are very, 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 very tone deaf. Fitness professionals talking about making time for training, how you just gotta. It's kind of like when stand-up comedians start talking about just traveling in airports and hotels all the time. Yeah. Like, oh, you jump ship now. You're completely dorks on Rogan just talk about the art of comedy. And fucking, if I got to hear on Rogan some comedian go, oh, then this guy killed it. It sucks. It's the most uninteresting shit. Keep that behind the curtain, please, and just make us laugh. That's all I want to hear. And I think fitness professionals really got to do the same. Be a little less preachy about these other behaviors and priorities and meet them where they are. Well, so this nutrition only version was that. Like, guys, I know a lot of guys who can't imagine becoming a fitnesser. They just can't. They're so far away from it, but they do know that they're eating wrong and they do know they need something. But this is the thing that again, there's two sides, John. I've seen many people who want to lose weight but are unwilling to address their food stuff, right? Because essentially of the mental aspect, mental, emotional eating, there's a bit of disordered stuff or just head in the sand. Food is a very interesting, people have weird relationships with food. But then the other side is there are absolutely people who don't want to work out in the gym who still want to lose weight. And so perfect. Got a product for each of them, kind of. And this one will still work though, because if you do this other program and ignore the nutrition, you're wasting your time, most likely. If you make no nutritional changes and exercise hard, you're kind of wasting your time. If you just eat differently, in regards to just weight loss, if you're an overweight guy, that's going to work. It's guaranteed to work if you fix the way you eat. It is not guaranteed to work if you just start exercising.
Because the reason why you can say it's guaranteed to work is because if you were still living in Amsterdam, you don't get to create this program.
No.
Because you were hanging out with
you're just around a bunch of fit people.
Super fit nerds, right? And then everybody else that lived out there, the fucking Dutch, are all in amazing shape anyway. There's not a fat person to be found in the entire country. So, but it takes you coming back to, rural Midwest America and getting back to your point about like the comedians, where if all you're doing is talking about hotels and flights, that's not interesting. If it took you having to get out,
all you're doing is talking about the nervous system and how it relates to fitness, you eventually get a little fucking detached from the humans on the ground who actually have fitness progress to make. And you end up just kind of being a distraction for everybody else who wants to put their attention elsewhere. And when you have people who need to lose weight or lose fat, and you start talking about that type of shit, that's when coaches, online fitness personalities, that's when they completely jump ship from like any real audience that actually matters or you can actually have an impact to, because they're just blabbing into their own echo chamber of people smelling their own farts. And
exactly.
Nobody gets fitter, John, and nobody gets fitter. All of those people have the same or lower level of fitness. It's crazy.
Right. And we've hit on this point before, but I need to tie it back again, because this comes back to whether, again, you're creating a program or service or event or whatever it is, you have to be networking. You have to be out in the community. You have to come out of your fitness cave. You have to interact with actual humans that actually live in your community who could be your potential clients, because that's no surprise, is that it makes whatever you're trying to put out there better, because you actually are trying to solve their real problems. Do you know what the biggest light bulb moment for me? It wasn't even for my own health or my own version of trying to diet or whatever, but it was when you simply just put something down. And it was in one of the iterations, the very first time I ever saw it, was this idea of like, just move to light beer.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait a second. Like this idea where so many people get hung up on like, no, like you need to do only drink water or only do this or only do that. It's like, no, just drink like diet Mountain Dew. Just don't drink high octane Mountain Dew or switch to liquor. Like that simple thing, that is such a real, that only happens from having real conversations with real people that are real guys that work at the fucking factory. They show up at 3 a.m. They get off at 3 p.m. and then they have to go pick up their kids, and then they're going to coach, and then they have to be a dad, and then they have to do it all over again. That motherfucker doesn't have time. He's eating gas station burritos. He's drinking high octane Mountain Dew all day long. And he works at the goddamn Hershey plant. So he gets all you can eat Almond Joys and Reese's peanut butter cups. Right? Like that's what those are. That's the people that are here where I live.
And it really ends up kind of within the program. It does end up kind of being a situation where it's like, listen, I know you're going to do this. So let's keep it where it can be. I'm going to let this be your cheat. Do this with your cheat meal then, and then eat something shitty. Don't overdo the calories. And that's one of the things is don't allow your cheat meal to give you a knockout punch. You know what I mean? That's another piece with this is like, you can come in, take a few jabs and move on. But some people dive in and spend 12 rounds in the fucking ring and just get lit up and then wonder why they don't feel that good for a couple of weeks. So now, so we moved to the nutrition only version of this program, which is sold very well. We continue now to, I upgrade the language. We upgrade the communication. Very, very, very deliberate still about every gap in, if I see somebody fall off, some people, I've maybe had 2 guys in the last couple of months that have just like not done a single check-in. It's like they just bought it and died. So I follow up, but whatever, it's the best you can do, right? But other than that, like everybody does the stuff. But because of that now, seeds need to be planted early on. Because while I can say, fuck those guys, they just didn't do it. I'm not in the business of enabling failure or even tolerating it. So while I'm not going to go knock on anybody's door, it is my job as the person who is selling this thing to make sure that even those people who maybe they always were going to ghost or disappear or fall off right away, how do they have the best chance of success? And so we talked about this before. It's in the beginning, maybe it's they need to I require them to have a conversation with their spouse and kids. Maybe that's another layer of accountability that matters. And the other thing is that I need to tell them. And that's it. You had another line in the beginning that goes on and say, please read this. The only people who have ever failed to get results in this program are people who do not check in every day. So if you check in every day, there like everything else almost will fall into place. Yeah, you can't avoid all the other stuff, but if you check in every day, you can be. I have never seen somebody who stops checking in that is successful. So defining that, like, because they did buy a thing because they wanted it to work, they just may not be willing to move themselves in that direction, right? Or really commit themselves to anything. So in doing that and laying out that language that way, now when a person like that shows up again, sometimes that needs to be the thing, because when we're talking nutrition coaching, it's lifetime fitness changes for people, right? If I'm just coaching somebody on a fucking hypertrophy block for 8 weeks during their fucking prep for a meet that's 16 weeks out, and then they're going to do another meet the next year, like I can't care about getting that involved. That person's just moving a little bit of a piece forward. So, but if I'm talking about lifetime fitness changes, right? Lifetime nutrition, like big time changes in direction in someone's life and health, there requires to be some seeds that need to get planted in their brain, some things that get said that they can never unhear, some things that connect, some things that hurt, some things have to stay with them, because a lot of this nutrition wise, it's very, being a nutrition coach is very often, it's like giving people advice and they don't take it, John, and that's fine, but like, everybody out there knows in your heart, whether it's in business, family, life, from parents, mentors, whatever, that somebody has given you advice that you've ignored, and then you've walked out there and you've known, it sits in your head, and then when you make that mistake again, it's fucking was right. You know what I mean? It sticks with you. It sucks. There's nothing worse than being like, this guy, somebody already tried to teach me this lesson the easy way, and I chose to ignore it. And in the end, you're like, you just keep proving them right, keep proving them right. And that's kind of our job as fitness, nutrition, and health coaches, is that you need to be able to plant some of those seeds so that it starts to grow and propagate and take roots in somebody's brain, so that they start to that bell rings in their head next time they're about to make the same mistake. Next time a man, a year after doing this program, walks into the gas station because he's traveling and he's like, ooh, I'm gonna get me a fucking sweet drink and I'm gonna get me some gummy bears and some chocolate, and he's gonna go, man, Tyler thought that stuff was kind of fucking lame, dude. And he's like, and honestly, he's right. You know what I mean? Guys, if I'm out and you're my friends and you walk out with a bag of candy from a store, what the fuck is wrong with you? It's not even about the candy. It's just, that's intense girl or child energy. Fuck off with that stuff, dude. Eat meat. Be a man. Come on, beef jerky. It's not that hard. What are we doing?
But hey, this is what's really important, though, is that it's the ability to continue to improve every one of these steps of the way. It doesn't happen by accident. And it won't happen because you will remember it. You'll think about it. Oh, this would be a great thing to put somewhere. And if you then have another thought and then another, and then there's a squirrel that runs by, that great idea that you had 32 seconds before never makes it back into your program.
Yep.
And so there has to be there has to be a mechanism that you're doing. And so we did a whole episode on what we called like the reps method, right? And this is the idea of having the first step with that R, right, is to record everything that you're doing. And so everything that you've talked about, Tyler, of like the very first iteration, getting to whatever the version that was, and then rolling with it, it always lives there. It's this living, breathing document of multiple weeks of language, stuff that you have, that you then purposefully, every new group of people that come through, someone comes through, you have an idea, you now have a very easy place to go and be like, oh, this is where I'm going to tweak it, or I can add this, or I can add that, or I can add a note, to where now things aren't strewn about on Post-it notes or wrapping paper or whatever it's going to be. It's like, oh no, I have a very methodical process that I can record what we're doing. I can evaluate every step of the way. How can I make it better each iteration? And now I can strategize, and I can do this every time, either for the exact population that I'm serving or for potential future branches that are not just the initial group of people I originally wanted to help.
Yeah. And so in this now we have the next evolution of the nutrition program specifically. Training programs a little dude centric and kind of very specific goals. And we've talked, there's, you know, big cardio moment. Like I want big breakthroughs for guys in like intense pumps 1 week and don't be a pussy about cardio. You know what I mean? I kind of just push guys to just, you know what, you're going to accomplish some shit this week. It's a lot built on that. There's a little bit of a crucible challenge component to how the workout stuff is kind of done. Each week you're like, all right, I'm gonna fucking get after this. But the nutrition only, there isn't that. It's really about consistency and being honest with yourself and just sticking to a plan and learning new things, learning things about yourself and the way you crave food and how you react to it and observing. So that's a very thoughtful process. But because it's a process that is true, I think, for universally weight loss. And I think all of these lessons are universal. But I wrote the whole thing for dudes and I talk like a bro on it. And also no women want me to coach them on this, right? And I don't hold a single female out there who's like, I'd rather not have Tyler be my nutrition coach. I get it. I'm a 300-pound strongman competitor. Like I'm not your ideal body type. So how can we equip these lessons with somebody else without like betraying their brand or having them just be delivering some canned stuff to do? And that's kind of what we've done next is we have a couple personal trainers here. And then we have kind of a couple of places out on the East Coast as well. People we know, gyms we work with who are, look, I'm looking to start doing some nutrition coaching, but I don't want to have to write rules every day for somebody. It's very laborious. And so John and I took on a little project. We're like, well, let's just see if we can reskin this. This is the question. How would we make this for females? Adult females who are looking for weight loss.
Back to the whiteboard.
Right. First off, how do I make them not eat candy and stuff in the afternoon? Because that stuff is for chicks and kids. And so there was some that was like, first off, we went through and we, all of the caloric recommendations and protein, we just immediately chopped down by 30%. We figured, because everything's in a range, right? Low end to a high end, stay within that range. If the needle's not moving for your weight loss wise, just slide to the lower end. But there's specific quantities, ranges of specific foods. And this, I think, works. That those quantities are enough for weight loss. It's exactly kind of where we need to be. If a girl's 125 pounds and coming us to lose weight, those quantities ain't going to work for her. And I don't think she probably needs to lose a lot of weight. Maybe this isn't the best program for her. So in this capacity, women around 160 plus, this works. It just tends to kind of work. I don't want constant custom nutrition plans, and most people just do that anyways. They would have done exactly what I did here: drop 30% off of the men's program, send it to a girl. Next week, send her the same thing. So, but we wanted to make sure that works. So we did this. We have some people trying it, so that just on the intake side, we're good. The food intake side, that's good. So we knew that works. Then it becomes the language and the lessons and how that needs to be. John and I are not
evolving.
Best. It's evolving.
Not
so
us.
We go to where we start with everything. We go to ChatGPT. Hi.
It's true.
Hi, Skynet. we started this thing for dudes. I wrote it a lot of dude language. I would like this to be more appealing for women. You can set some sort of tone guidelines. I'd like it to be compassionate but firm. I'd like there to be a tone of accountability and hope. I'd like to be positive, funny, and you just start going. So we
not
get that
through. Anymore.
Non-sexist anymore, I guess. So we went through, and then John and I have to remove ourselves from this process because our brains are not the brains that are going to work for this.
Right.
So we sent it out to a couple female coaches we work with, female personal trainers, and said, first off, just read through this. Look, we got a few notes. There's things we were missing or things that were maybe a little out of sorts. It might have been ChatGPT, it might have just been our boy brains. And so we just then got it fixed. We tuned it up to what they thought was it. Everything else was really, really great. They're excited to try it. And now this is in beta testing mode. It's exactly where it's
inside out.
Right now. Back to inside out. So we're back in. We have a few coaches, female coaches running this for themselves as well as their clients. And we continue to work on the language, not because I'm worried about a public relations nightmare, but because the lessons that are taught in each one of those things is important. And if it just sounds like me mansplaining shit to you, like My wife hates that stuff too. So if the tone is Tyler mansplaining some shit, that PDF is not going to be interesting to any females. So again, that's always the thing we go back to, but we let people who are actually able to make those judgments. Because John and I are just going to go, I don't know, chicks just don't get it, or whatever. You know what I mean? It's not going to work if we're the ones in the trenches trying to figure out if this thing's going to speak very well to females. And it really is about teaching them to avoid the traps that are coming, to know the pitfalls and experiences that are coming in the next 5 or 6 weeks with this program, and to make sure that there are expectations that are set, and that there is, a bit more of a don't do this because it sucks and it's dumb vibe, and more of a like, this is how we get there. It is a bit more of a practical, reassured tone that we try to run through, but we're just fucking winging this at this point. So it's only going to be corrected based upon the feedback. And so that's where we're at with this one. And now this has the ability to equip many other female coaches to just take this and run with it. They have to study it so they know what's going on, and they need to know the philosophy with which we're executing this, but they all are still doing the accountability their own way. If they want to check in and they want to, hey, give me a voice message after your call, or after your however they want to change any of the correspondence, they're more than welcome to, because this is simply a framework for them and their client to participate in while they build a relationship and have a successful weight loss experience.
I think it's really important to always make sure you have it framed where it's like, you only need to get about 80% of the way there in order to be able to start doing something, because the amount of time it will take to close that last 20% is not advantageous. It's not worth the time, because you won't make more money because it's that much better. And you won't help people because it's that much better. You just get 80% better every single time. And slowly over time, you really can make it sharp, because you could only learn certain things, the right things to say, how to do that, accountability, what is the lesson that should be learned. It can only be done by the doing.
Yeah. Well, and I think I'm not going to say the best coaches, but the most knowledgeable coaches out there tend to wrongly pursue perfection in regards to the details of the program, not the experience and not the lessons that need to be learned, meaning the most scientifically flawless training volume and progression. You guys, it's not that important. You need to be so fucking dialed in for a lot of that stuff to matter. And that's actually why I stay back in this pocket where I can have a real impact and not have to be such a fucking dork about shit. The dumbest thing I see is people like very concerned about training methodologies and details and training volume and this and that and programming and exercise. Like, it's all this super important, high level, highly educated shit to get somebody who's already 98% to their absolute potential, to get them to 98.5% of their absolute potential. That is so much work for you to have no fucking impact in your actual life. And realistically, the impact that a lot of these coaches with that type of stuff are having on the athlete's life is almost none either. Because, if you didn't give that to them, they'd have got it somewhere else. So I would much rather have my efforts be a part of a process where I get somebody from 15% of their fitness capacity, fitness potential, and I get them to 80%. I mean, that is a life-changing, absolutely true. That changes families, changes businesses, changes generations of families. It changes people's moods. This changes the mental health of spouses, children, parents. This is a real impactful thing. And that fucking matters to me a lot more about choosing the right balance between a flat bench press, dumbbells, or fucking incline. It's like, I don't care. I don't care. I can't pretend to care about any of that stuff, because deep down that's not important. And if you're in a place where those details are important, like literally are actually a significant priority, then that's just a world of coaching I can't pretend to give a shit about. I just can't. And while that exists, it's not the pocket I want to be in. So the nice thing about this is I don't ever tell anyone about anything that you're doing in the workouts because it doesn't matter. I tell everybody it doesn't matter. You're going to do them, but it doesn't fucking matter. That's why most of you want to do a different exercise in place of this. Just ask me first. That's it. I don't want to do this one. Okay. Because deep down, just fucking eat less and you lose weight. So just being in the gym is actually just another slightly the positive reinforcement you get. Feeling after a good workout is just going to give you a little bit of momentum, right? It's not bad. It certainly isn't going to set you back, but that's what I'd rather have you take away is it's another sense of accomplishment. It's another way to physically feel like you've won the day versus like some of those nutrition wins are like all mental. You're like, okay, I'm not full and bloated and fully satisfied and stuff like I normally am before bed. I guess I just go to bed now. Like that's not always that doesn't have as much doesn't shine as bright as the accomplishment you get after a big workout.
Well, it's also hard to put on Instagram.
That's true too.
It's not as sexy. Here's another thing that I found that I've liked is that it's as this thing gets built out. Originally, we're 80% of the way there, and now it's very, very tight. There's probably one or two more iterations to where this thing is as razor sharp as it needs to be for men, right? For that men group that we're focused on. But what I like about it is as the need arose, because that's really what drove it, is that it wasn't like we should scale this up so now we can affect every person that exists on the planet. It was like, no, there was a desire and a need. And because we had this thing, we had already ran it multiple versions over here for group A, the need and the ask for group B began, and that was females. Well, guess what? We're 50% of the way there.
Correct. Because now let's talk about this, where this came from first too. This came from a guy that did the male program going, hey, my wife kind of be interested in something like this. Do you have anything for women? I was like, I can. I'd rather have like, Megan or a female coach would work with her on it. So I absolutely can. I said, if she wants to, we'll even run a beta test with her she'll take the pilot program. We'll give you a discount and she can run with it. Her and Megan will both execute this thing and build it together. And that's where this need came from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we get to start it.
Yeah.
Right. So we get to start at 50% because this is something we found with the gyms that we work in the Gear Academy is that we have given really general constraints and guidelines, right? Of like, well, you should have a nutrition program, you all, right? You need to have an accountability piece and a nutrition piece because we all know why we're here, why people are here. You need to have this. So we recommend, these general things. And then when we check in on our clients 12 weeks later, hey, you said you wanted to work on this. Where are you at? Oh, well, like nothing has moved. And so it was like, okay, well, then we need to then equip you with something that can get the ball rolling. You need to now get 80% of the way there. So at least you can do something. Because if in your gym and in your guys' business, if you are thinking we really should do something about this, and then you leave it to your coaches to figure out, I promise you, nothing will fucking happen.
Correct.
I promise.
Correct.
And so we then were able to say, well, hey, now you can start here. Oh, well, great. It's always easier to edit something than it is to create something from scratch. And this is also where another need came, because then the next iteration of this program is I came to you, Tyler, and said, hey, I have a fuck ton of high school athletes, male high school athletes. And I had been training them. And then all of a sudden I started to hear from them, which was, I need to lose weight. I wish that I could lose weight. I'm not sure exactly what to do. Like, are you able to help me? Well, now it's not like, oh, well, now I need to create something that's brand new. Well, guess what? Now I'm 50, now I'm 50% of the way there. And now we get to start all over.
Just take all the F words out of the deliverables and send it to the kids.
All the alcohol references. Like it was,
now
now it's
a little bit to be done there. Yeah. Just a little bit.
And that's what and then we now are
like missing that and sending it to the kids like, just drink light beer on Saturday.
Switch to vodka, you'll be fine. Yeah. Like it was
pot. Try to keep it in the daytime when you're far away from food. Yeah.
But that was it, right? I had to go through that and be able to look at it. But now it wasn't so daunting because I had put work in. So now there's nothing in the nutritional space that I at least don't have somewhere to start and launch. And the good thing is that this ends up becoming where it was the program. Well, now you can have something that ends up being the intro program. Because if I was going
Correct.
to like brainstorm and pull us up to 30,000 feet, there is a concept that you and I are fucking around with personally, because it's inside out, which is like, what if we had something where they hit a plateau and then they don't eat for a really
They're
long
just
time?
starving.
Like, like what
It's
it's
actually,
like,
yeah. And that's the hang up is where we're stalled out is literally, it's like, I'd like some fasting. I've tried it. I've tried some longer term. I'm trying to figure out if I actually like it as a whole. And so we're back to what's step one? Try it out yourself. Start figuring it out. And this is why we've always talked about coaches that are super dogmatic. I mean, I don't know, you got a pretty limited scope of experience now. Like what are you capable? I'm all about, listen, I'm a 300-pound man. I went 2 days a week without eating any food, 3 days a week, some weeks.
mhm.
Like that sucks for a guy like me. That is not particularly fun, but it's important that I know that. I'm not even sure that it's something I would ever recommend to clients, but there are clients out there who I had that I'm like, hey, I don't know, maybe try it. Because I always believe a 24-hour fast, there's lessons to be learned a lot. I think there's a lot more practical daily routine lives or lessons to be learned from 24-hour fast about cravings and how you'll be fine and how clear you actually feel and really how much you're always kind of punishing yourself by digesting food all day. People don't normally realize it. So there's a lot of clarity to be gained and good understandings of nutrition and how your body handles food to be gained from 24. It's totally different lessons when you get beyond 36 and 48 and 72 hours. Totally different. I don't know if they're all good, and I kind of don't poop right during it and for
But
3 or
that's an
4 days
important,
after.
but
These
how
are
important
important.
was that lesson? Because
It's an
you had
important
done the
lesson.
72 before me, and then you're
Yeah.
like, hey, you're going to do a set. I'm like, yeah, I'll try it out. Why not? And then you're like, be very careful of what you were about to break your fast with after the
It doesn't even
72 because
matter.
it's about to get weird.
It still takes me like it still took me 3 days. I literally was not feeling right. I just didn't, that whole phase during that 6 weeks of fasting, it was like needing to poop, but there's not any poop, feeling like there's not any poop and there's the most poop. Why is that? Why is that? It was a tough life, guys. Sorry to fucking finish out on the
But it's,
PG-13 stuff, but it was rough. And so, but it's important to know. It's just, again, as more of these trends and things become popular, what are you as a fitness trainer, you can't try something just to see it. By the way, there's no way that this would make me the expert on fasting, but me not having tried it at all makes me even less equipped to have a fucking conversation about it when someone is interested in it, right?
mhm.
That's the main thing. So while I'm not going to write a book about multi-day fasting for sure anytime soon, I'm not even sure if I'm going to try it again anytime soon because I'm enjoying my normal toilet stuff now. Is finally kind of nice again. I like that stuff being normal and not just so weird forever. Uh, like now though, when someone comes in, I've been hearing about this and that. There's a lot of articles about this, and there are. Like I can say, well, here's my experience of it. Here's what I'd look out for. I don't, there's things. It certainly isn't a performance thing. If you're worried about exercising or feeling good in the gym at all on this, or being strong, or if you have real fitness goals or anything like that, that may not be it. If you're just wanting to tinker and try something, maybe. But and learning how put weight back on or what things happen after a thing. All those are worthwhile experiences, I think, for a coach to have. And from it, you can possibly end up getting familiar enough with it to where you can guide somebody else through those steps. Because in reality, that's what we're doing as coaches in regards to fitness and in the gym. We spent many years working out and many years studying, and then we understand these things. So what we do when you come into the gym is we go, let me show you the things that I know that can help you most directly so you can save yourself all this time. But it still is rooted in our experience and our education. And hopefully your education is based in experience and not just a book so that you actually have fucking, actual knowledge.
Mhm.
But that's the process. This is what we do all the time on everything here. So nutrition is no different. If I don't eat away, it'd be insane for me to restrict somebody's calories in a way that mine have never been. That'd be nuts. I gotta know what's coming, or else I'm not of any use to guide them through this process. All I'm doing then is pointing and then walking away.
And that's what we get back to. And this has been a thing that's popular with us in everything that we talk about, which is expectations.
Yeah.
All of this comes back down to the ability to establish expectations with the client. What are they about to go through? How can you prepare them as they're getting ready to experience X, Y, or Z? And as you are focused on the expectations and you're focused on those pieces, this is where we don't have to get into the weeds. You can focus on what matters. You can talk about what matters. You can talk about, because you've done it before, you've interacted with real people before, you now can talk about it the right way. You can talk about the right things. And that gets us into marketing, which is a whole separate piece of this. But the more you are interacting with real humans, doing this with real humans, actually doing the doing instead of just buying a fucking thing and then running people through a thing that you bought, or you pay for programming and now someone's going to do that programming, there's gaps. And there are gaps to that you just won't ever be able to fix until you change how you go about doing this. And that's what I'm kind of why I wanted to do this concept, which is to give you more, right? You give you the opportunity, allow yourself to be more creative with the shit that you're doing.
Yeah. If we get into real quickly on the marketing side, right? Obviously, in the beginning now, what it is, once these programs are what they are, the bones of these are the same. What people are going to be doing is nearly the same. The weight loss principles, the philosophy, the execution, nearly identical, no matter who is doing this program, right? And while that is important, who those people are that is doing the program kind of dictates who the branding is, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm fulfilling it. It's very much in a dudes rock brand. It's like fellas, dads, DX, suck it. Let's go. Let's fucking do this. Throwing up the birds, no excuses, no bullshit. It's time. Put your man tits away. It's time to fucking be a real dude. We're not wearing t-shirts at the pool this year. Fuck off with that shit. Like, I didn't live this long on this earth to be t-shirt at the pool guy. I'm just not doing this, right? You've come too far. You have a family, a home, all this shit. We're not being t-shirt at the pool guy anymore. This is enough. Okay. And whatever that is, that tone now lives within the marketing in the beginning. That's kind of what the brand is. Like, cool, fun, funny, but kind of direct shit that does hit home to some of those people. But after the fact, when this important now is when you finish the program is we do get results, and I have my exit questionnaire, my exit Google form that people all fill out. It's actually asks a series of questions that gives people opportunities to answer. So instead of leave me one review, it's like, what was the hardest part about the program? You know, what was the most rewarding part about the program? How much weight did you lose? Of course, where were you at? What made you want to do this program to begin with? What would you say to somebody who's thinking about starting this program? With that formula, which has been tuned up from each version and each person that goes through, now I get really, really good testimonials that not only are like framed in a way that speaks directly to the type of guy that I want, right? When they answer those questions, boy, every other man who's in that situation goes, I'm that guy. I'm that guy. And that worked. It's always about the results. So, in a lot of other things, sex sells, in fitness, results sell. So all this branding and all this fun stuff was really just to hopefully get my foot in the door. And everything else is like results. Once I have one or two guys that lose 30, 40, 50 pounds, I've had a couple guys lose nearly 30 pounds in 5 weeks. I've had many guys lose 50 plus in the following, many, many weeks. We've got a few guys that are over that I think are 50 pounds over in like 3 months, give or take. So, but that's fantastic. But now that is the only thing that these other guys care about now. The rest of the guys go, oh, I know this guy. He said it was awesome. The branding all looks cool. Now, nothing about the branding needs to be an attractor. It's just automatically, yeah, it's for dudes. This guy said it works. I'm in. And I now no longer, you don't have to charm people into buying. The results fucking take care of it. And so once you have actually got a few humans to be successful, this thing moves very, very, very easily. And I think anything you do should have that potential, because if you're running a regular challenge or you're doing camps or booty boot camp, whatever type of shit you want to do, whatever your specialty program or idea or online program is, if in the end nobody's life has changed or nobody's raving about how great of an experience they had, well, that's a lot harder to sell. The whole point of getting 10 people through your program is that 10 people are going to go out and get you 10 more each, because they're going to be so successful. Everyone's going to be asking how they do it. And if those 10 people aren't successful, well, you better figure out how to make the next 10 successful. And you're going to have a harder time selling that next 10 than you would have if that first 10 actually got the fucking job done. So never detach from client results. That's the biggest thing. We're not doing this. I am doing this to make money, right? For sure. But if that was the only thing, I would put a lot less effort into this. You know what I mean? There would be a lot less, it would be a lot less successful for the clients. And I know that in the long run, something that continues to deliver people good experiences, like knowledge that they can carry with them, that makes them really equipped to be fit and healthy for life, and they fucking know it. And I didn't teach them that in lieu of weight loss.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff where like, oh, I learned all these lessons and I'm so smart now, and now I'll just get fat for 15 years. That's a lot of fitness knowledge that gets thrown out there now, is these people just obsess over information and don't ever get in any better shape. Don't ever help anybody get in any better shape. This now is a thing where you can definitely, now these people have lifelong lessons and the results came right up front, which now the program can be successful. They can be successful. And 5 years down the road, they're going to go, you know what kicked all this off? They're so appreciative. And now if you just continue to do this thing and have that level of an impact, the trail that gets left behind you is, I mean, you would just have an absolute wake of shitloads of success and tons of people clamoring to get their hands on that success. They want the success. These new people, they want the results and the success more than they want the product, more than they want to change how they eat, more than they want to do anything else. They just want those results. So once that becomes what your thing is known for, it's fucking over, dude. It's easy. Everything's pretty easy after that. And by that moment, you got the thing so tuned up, it's super easy to fulfill. And all you're doing is swimming in the success of your clients. And that's a fuckload of fun.
And if everything that you just described, Tyler, if you're listening, if you don't have the means to collect those things, that's your next iteration.
Yep.
If you realize that you're doing a lot of cool stuff, but you still feel like you're the best kept secret in town, it means you don't have the mechanisms in place to collect that information, to collect those testimonials, to collect that feedback. So then that can be built back into the program, used for your marketing, have the testimonials. Like if you're doing awesome shit and people don't know about it, it's your own fucking fault. You have to start having a way to be able to talk about the things that you do. It can't just be, well, you know, people will just know. And it's like, that's not how it works. People are too busy. There's elections, there's wars, there's fucking all this shit that's going to take over whatever their brain is trying to go about their day. People are going to steal their attention, steal their time. It is really vitally important that you have those mechanisms, those pieces in place so that you can start to. And the best news is if you really have been doing the doing, you've been kicking all sorts of ass, then you have a treasure trove. You just need to go after and go re-ask those people. Go back to them, start asking those things. You can always work retroactively and get it back. Will it be as successful? No, but you can at least have somewhere to start and have that be your next iteration of this, whatever it is that you do.
Yeah. All right, guys, get up there and make something awesome. Make some people successful. So it all starts there. You want to work with us directly, Gear Academy is where it's at. You can go to gymownersrevolution.com. If you have questions for us about what we do, how we work with gyms, or what we can do very specifically to help you and your gym get to where you want to be, shoot John or I a message, or the podcast message on Instagram. It's the Gym Owners Podcast on Instagram. John is
JBanksFL.
And I am Tyler Effenstone. That's Tyler EFFIN Stone. Facebook group, Gym Owners Revolution Facebook group.
Yep. We have a Facebook group on Facebook. It's called the Gym Owners Revolution. The link is in the description of the episode.
Really nailed that one.
You did great.
Really nailed that read. All right. We'll see you guys next week.